The wind howled across the open plains of Wyoming as rain began to pour over the old Sinclair ranch. Inside the modest farmhouse, Emma Sinclair was patching the roof with trembling hands. The storm had ripped another plank loose, and she had no one left to help. Since her father died, she'd been running the ranch alone, just her, a few stubborn cattle and her loyal border collie, Rusty. It was close to midnight when she heard the knock. 3 soft taps on the door. She hesitated. Folks didn't usually visit during storms. Rusty growled low. Emma grabbed her lantern, opened the door just a crack, and there they stood. A man in a drenched cowboy hat and a young boy clutching a muddy blanket. "Ma'am," the man said quietly, his voice deep and polite. "Our wagon broke down by the ridge. We've been walking near 6 miles. My boy's freezing. We just need a place to stay till morning." Emma looked at them, the man's worn coat, the boy's pale face, and felt her heart tug. She nodded. "Come in, before you both catch your deaths." They stepped inside. The man removed his hat, revealing dark hair streaked with gray. He looked exhausted but proud. The boy, maybe 8 or 9, clung to his arm, shivering. "Thank you, ma'am. I'm Jack. This here's my son, Eli." Emma smiled gently and guided them toward the fire. "I'm Emma. Sit down. I'll get you something warm to eat." As she ladled stew into bowls, she noticed the boy's quiet manners and the father's gratitude. Jack kept thanking her, not in a desperate way, but humble, respectful. They ate in silence, except for the crackle of the fire and the storm raging outside. When they'd finished, Emma showed them to the spare room, her father's old one, and left them to rest. That night, as the rain eased, she couldn't help but think of the stranger and his boy asleep under her roof. There was something about Jack, the calm in his eyes, the way he looked at his son, that stayed with her. By morning, the sky was clear and bright. The storm had passed, leaving puddles glistening under the sunrise. Emma found Jack already outside chopping firewood beside the barn. "You don't have to do that," she called out. He smiled. "Can't sit still knowing you helped us. Least I can do is lend a hand." She watched as he swung the axe, strong, practiced, efficient. Not the way a man used to begging or hardship moved. There was grace and control in every motion. Eli, the boy, was feeding Rusty scraps and laughing. For the first time in months, Emma's lonely ranch felt alive again. As days passed, one night turned into 3. Jack insisted on helping with the chores, fixing fences, herding cattle, even repairing the roof Emma had been struggling with. The boy followed everywhere, eager to learn. When Emma tried to pay him, Jack refused. "We're grateful for your kindness. That's payment enough." But Emma noticed small things: his polished boots, a gold watch chain he tried to hide, the way he spoke about business and land with quiet authority. He didn't act like a poor drifter. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, she asked, "You sure you're just a cowboy, Jack?" He chuckled softly. "What makes you ask that? You fix a roof better than most carpenters, herd cattle like you own the herd, and your boy talks about tutors. Poor cowboys don't usually have tutors." Jack's eyes met hers, calm, unreadable. "Let's just say I'm a man trying to live simple for a while." Something about that answer stirred her curiosity. On the 5th day, a black carriage rolled into view, polished, expensive, and wildly out of place in the dusty plains. 2 men in suits stepped out. "Mr. Dalton," one said, tipping his hat. "We've been looking for you. The board meeting starts at noon. The investors are waiting." Emma froze. "Mr. Dalton?" she repeated. Jack sighed and turned to her, eyes soft. "Name's Jackson Dalton. Dalton Cattle Company. Guess you've heard of it." She had. Everyone had. Dalton Cattle was one of the biggest ranching empires west of the Mississippi. He wasn't just a cowboy. He was one of the wealthiest men in the state. Emma stood speechless, clutching the railing. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted someone to look at me the way you did," he said quietly. "Not like a rich man, not like a name. Just a father, trying to do right by his boy." Eli ran to Emma and hugged her leg. "Miss Emma, we don't want to leave." Her eyes softened. She knelt to the boy. "You got a big world waiting, sweetheart." Jack watched her with something unspoken in his gaze. regret, admiration, something deeper. They left the next morning. The ranch felt empty again. Days passed. Weeks. Emma tried to move on, but she caught herself setting extra plates at dinner, glancing at the road whenever she heard hooves. Then one afternoon, a group of riders arrived at her gate. Leading them was a lawyer, dressed sharp as a tack. "Miss Sinclair?" he said, tipping his hat. "Mr. Dalton asked me to deliver this." He handed her an envelope, thick and heavy. Inside was a letter written in Jack's steady hand. Emma, I can't forget what you did for me and Eli. You opened your home without question and reminded me what real kindness feels like. You once said your ranch was dying. I can't let that happen. The enclosed deed and check should take care of it. But more than that, I'd like to ask your permission to return. Not as a stranger this time, but as a man who'd like to build something lasting. Emma stared at the letter. Inside the envelope was a check, enough to pay every debt, rebuild every fence and more. Her eyes filled with tears. She folded the letter carefully, pressed it to her chest and whispered, "Come home, Cowboy." 2 weeks later, a familiar sound echoed over the hills, the steady rhythm of hooves. She stepped out onto the porch, the evening sun painting the sky gold. There he was, Jack Dalton, dressed simple again, his son riding beside him. Eli jumped off the horse and ran straight to her, laughing. "We're home, Miss Emma." Jack dismounted, hat in hand. "If you'll have us." Emma smiled through tears. I never stopped. He took a step closer, his rough hand brushing her cheek. "Then maybe it's time we stop running from who we are." The wind swept across the plains, carrying the scent of rain and new beginnings. Rusty barked, the horses neighed, and the sun dipped behind the horizon as the three of them stood together. A woman, a man and a boy. No longer strangers, but a family starting over. And from that day on, the Sinclair Ranch was no longer struggling. It became part of the Dalton legacy, not through money or land, but through love born from one stormy night and a simple act of kindness.